Reborn on the very night Liang, Zhiyan and Zhao Lingyi planned their elopement, as his betrothed, I gave him travel money. With gratitude toward me in his heart, he and she slipped out of the city under cover of night. What awaited them thereafter was a life of roughing it, sleeping under the stars, and utter destitution. He would never again have the chance to wield power over the world as he had in his previous life. Main text: the first thing I did after reincarnating was gather some travel money. Under cover of night, I went to the bamboo grove west of the city and placed it in Liang Zhiyan's hands. He looked visibly grateful. Liang Zhiyan and Zhao Lingyi eloped. Watching their hasty retreat, I felt as though I were witnessing the wretched life that lay ahead of them. The legitimate heir of a distinguished family had willingly abandoned his status, forsaking privilege and glory for a wandering physician. The news spread like wildfire, becoming the capital's laughingstock. Childhood sweethearts no match for a heavenly beauty became the jest of tea-houses and taverns. And I was the pitiful, abandoned fiancé everyone spoke of. I shed tears on the spot, cementing the rumors. When his father came to visit, his face was ashen. This incident had utterly disgraced him. "We have wronged you," he said. With eyes brimming with hurt, I replied softly, "It was fate that brought us together, but not meant to last. I hold no blame against him." Then, with deliberate grace, I turned and left. Alone, I let a faint smile touch my lips. This lifetime, I would grant him his wish. As for his connection with Zhao Lingyi, it was indeed a beautiful tale. While traveling through the southern frontier, he was accidentally bitten by a venomous snake and saved by Zhao Lingyi. Posing as a disgraced young master cast out by his family, he claimed he was unmarried. Naturally, over time, he grew fond of Zhao Lingyi, never mentioning his long-betrothed fiancée. Pressured by his family to marry, he instead brought Zhao Lingyi back with him. He vowed to wed her and give her proper status. The Liang family refused to accept a lowly wandering physician as their daughter-in-law. He protested by refusing food, but it was futile. As my wedding to him drew near, he conceived the plan to elope. He was willing to abandon everything he possessed to wander the world with her. In my past life, upon learning this, I followed the Liang family's instructions. When he came to return the betrothal token, I took advantage of the moment, got him drunk, and brought him back to the Liang residence. Zhao Lingyi rushed to the bamboo grove, mistakenly believing he had broken his promise. She left in bitter resentment, never to be seen again. From that day onward, he drowned his sorrows in wine daily, losing the refined and noble demeanor of a young master from a distinguished family. I was so close to being with her forever. His heart turned to ashes, and he married me as his family wished. After the wedding, he devoted himself entirely to his political career, accepting every advantage I and my family offered him. But when he reached the pinnacle of power, he sent men to search every city, crossed the seas to the east, and journeyed far beyond the mountains, all to find her. Only then did his true nature emerge. All my years of scheming were for this, to seize power, find her, and bring her back. Now no one can stop me. For 7 long years, his obsession never faded, it became a demon within him. He confined me to the inner courtyard, feeding me a bowl of medicinal soup each day. Watching my wretched state, he wiped his hands with a handkerchief and said casually, "Fu Qining, when Lingyi returns, you'll be just the one to make room for her." Zhao Lingyi saw me lying on the bed, barely clinging to life. Contempt flashed in her eyes as she tilted her head slightly. "All your efforts for nothing. Do you regret it?" In their earth-shattering love story, I was merely the insignificant first wife. She shouldn't have asked if I regretted it. She should have asked if I resented it, resented this life where fate was not my own. The chancellor of the court, entrusted with the young emperor by the late emperor in his final hour, held sway over the entire realm. His first wife died young. He searched the land far and wide, reuniting with his youthful love, a tale that became legendary. And I was the stumbling block, ruthlessly cast aside. Heaven granted me a second chance at life. This time, I could choose for myself. In my past life, I erred. I should never have prevented him from embracing that lowly destiny. This time, I choose to honor their love, to respect their fate. From now on, enduring wind and frost, traveling through snow-laden roads, these two shall become chapters in their love story. Without his family's protection and support, Liang Zhiyan was just an ordinary man. The travel money I gave him, based on his usual spending habits, would only last about half a month. He had grown up in luxury, wearing brocades worth 1,000 gold pieces per bolt and drinking the most precious Westlake Longjing tea daily. To avoid drawing attention, he had taken few valuables from home. Soon, Zhiyan would learn the harsh realities of living frugally and facing empty pockets. He once told me, "This illustrious lineage and vast fortune mean nothing to me. They cannot compare to the time I spent with Lingyi in that small town in the southern frontier." He had lived there for only 3 short months. 3 months of ordinary life felt like a novel, different experience to him, but 3 years, 30 years of worrying about money, he might not be able to endure that. The Liang family sent no one to search for him. He and Lingyi traveled together, eventually settling in Lanqing. To make ends meet, Lingyi went out daily to treat patients. Once, she had held herself back with pride, refusing to treat the wealthy. But now, with their expenses so high, she had to set aside her pride. As long as the payment was generous enough, she would accept the case. Zhiyan, too, possessed a certain pride. He could never bring himself to live off Lingyi's support. Back in the capital, his brushwork had always drawn praise, revered as transcendent art. Yet this proud scion of a distinguished family had resorted to selling his calligraphy and paintings to make ends meet. Now, in the marketplace, his works were scrutinized and criticized without restraint. Once, people would spend a fortune to obtain a single piece of his calligraphy. Now, commoners on the street declared his paintings weren't even worth 20 coins. Perhaps in this moment, he was also contemplating what remained for him after leaving the Liang family. On Lingyi's birthday, they had their first argument. It happened when Lingyi examined the son of a wealthy merchant and gained his favor. On her birthday, the wealthy merchant's son sent countless brocades and treasures, even lighting fireworks for 2 hours straight atop the grandest restaurant in Lan City. The entire city witnessed this magnificent spectacle. Truthfully, this scene had played out in her past life too, only it occurred after Lingyi had left the capital alone. That wealthy young master had stayed by her side, easing her sorrows and taking her to explore mountains and rivers. But now, having successfully eloped with Zhiyan, the wealthy young master had appeared a little earlier than before. As she gazed at the fireworks, a radiant smile spread across her face. This very moment was captured by Zhiyan, who had hurried to her side. He confronted Lingyi. "You once claimed not to care about my status, whether I was a noble scion or a common peddler, you vowed your heart would never waver. Yet now, after so little time, you despise my poverty and inability to offer you a life of luxury? Have you already set your sights on climbing higher?" With that, he hurled the porcelain doll in his hand to the ground, shattering it, and turned to leave. Lingyi chased after him, and a heated argument erupted in the small courtyard. No matter how she explained, he refused to believe there was no connection between her and that wealthy young master. He had used money from selling paintings to buy her a porcelain doll as a birthday gift. Yet, in the face of silk robes, jewels, and fireworks filling the sky, it seemed so meager and laughable, wounding his pride. Lingyi's accusatory tone only deepened his heartache. She blamed him for leaving early and returning late every day, no longer patiently accompanying her as before. When she faced difficult patients during consultations, she had no one to confide in about her inner anguish. Yet Zhiyan coldly retorted, "If not for you, how could I have fallen to such depths? When the news reached me, I burned the letter to ashes after reading it." This letter had come from the Liang household. I knew of Zhiyan's movements before they did. I hosted a small banquet under the moon, surrounded by my closest female friends. The Gu family's daughter, indignant on my behalf, sighed. The Liang family's young master abandoned his clan and forsake his status for a mere physician's daughter. He will surely regret it someday. This turn of events is heaven's way of helping you see his true nature. Recognizing he is no worthy man and letting go early is, in fact, a blessing. I nodded in agreement and clinked glasses with her. Truthfully, after he eloped with Lingyi, the Liang family intended to send guards to bring him back. It was my persuasion that convinced his parents not to pursue him. The more others obstruct him, I reasoned, the more he'll strive to prove his love is stronger than gold, defying convention. Better to let him go. Matters of the heart are as fleeting as mist, once the passion fades, they dissipate. The Liang parents heeded my words and let him live his own life. Now that they've sent this letter to me, it proves I was right. Now, with no one to stop them, the two have become a bitter couple. The Liang family is likely already waiting for Liang Zhiyan to return like a prodigal son, begging on his knees for forgiveness. Mrs. Liang once came to my door herself, holding my hand and saying, if one day he realizes his mistake and comes back, perhaps you two could rekindle your relationship. Facing her earnest gaze, I smiled without a word. What I wanted was for him to never return. From the day he abandoned his status as the legitimate heir of a distinguished family, I never intended to let him reclaim it easily. I set up a soup kitchen in the eastern part of the city, serving porridge daily. Passers-by all praised my kind heart. Upon learning I'd been abandoned by my fiancé, they all felt indignant on my behalf. The scandal of the Liang family's heir eloping with another ran rampant. Yet my soup kitchen served another purpose. The moment I saw the birthmark on that filthy beggar girl's arm, I knew the one I sought had appeared. Her name was Luo Zhiyan. She clung to my feet, tugging at my robes, begging me to save her mother. I paid handsomely for a physician to treat her mother and even purchased a small courtyard outside to house the two of them. Her mother's condition improved, allowing her to earn a living through embroidery and laundry instead of begging. As for the silver owed for past medical care, I settled every last coin. She called me a rare kindness in this world. She was mistaken. I only aid those who hold value to me. Perhaps she still doesn't realize she never should have lived this life. Liang Zhiyan took her place. Back then, the Liang family's concubines bore sons one after another, while the legitimate wife remained barren for years. When she finally conceived, she gave birth to a daughter. To make matters worse, she damaged her body during childbirth, making future pregnancies unlikely. So she gambled everything on a desperate move. She swapped her own daughter for the son of a commoner. All these years, Liang Zhiyan, as the Liang family's sole legitimate son, has basked in luxury and privilege. Yet he remains unaware that he has stolen another's life. The one who should have been raised in gold and jade was that swapped-out young lady. Liang Zhiyan is a complete counterfeit, a cuckoo in the nest. In his past life, he uncovered the truth during an investigation, yet chose to bury it. That woman, Luo Zhiyan, died by the sword of an assassin sent by Liang Zhiyan. When Lady Liang learned of this, she chose to cover it up for him, utterly indifferent to her own daughter's life. This time, I will help her drive Liang Zhiyan out of the Liang family once and for all. Liang Zhiyan returned sooner than I anticipated. His first act upon his return was to seek me out. He had a letter delivered, insisting on waiting beneath the eaves despite the torrential downpour outside. When I stepped out with my umbrella to meet him, his robes were already drenched. Gone were the brocaded robes of old. Today he wore only a plain-colored long robe, devoid of any adornments. Why did you give me that travel money back then? His voice was low and measured as he spoke, seemingly waiting for me to offer an explanation, to give him a way out. I let out a soft laugh. I wanted to see how far you and she could go without my interference. I'm quite eager to witness the outcome. At my words, his eyes darkened, as if unwilling to speak further. In my past life, he searched the world for her, showered her with unparalleled favor, even poisoning me with his own hands to clear her path. I believed that love could withstand the world's storms, doubts, and suspicions. Little did I know it would crumble so swiftly. His obsession was nothing more than the Zhao Lingyi he'd never truly possessed in his memories. Once attained, she proved to be nothing special. I knew why he'd returned to the capital. He'd witnessed Zhao Lingyi weeping on the shoulder of that wealthy young nobleman. It turns out I was wrong, he murmured, his voice low and heavy. Qining, would you still give me a chance? He tentatively voiced the question. I replied slowly, you shouldn't have asked that. When you brought Zhao Lingyi back, you stripped me of my dignity. You eloped with her, leaving me open to the world's scorn. Now that she's broken your heart, you turn to me? Am I so lowly? Am I just your fallback option? Panic flickered in his eyes. After a long moment, he stammered, I know I shouldn't expect you to come back easily. I'll do whatever it takes to make you happy. He turned and walked away in the pouring rain. In the days that followed, he visited repeatedly. Everyone said he'd reformed, but I refused to see him, feigning illness to send him away. Yet his next actions stunned everyone. At the foot of Xiangshan Temple, he climbed the 9,900 steps, kneeling at every step to pray for me, persevering until he reached the summit. He knelt before the Buddha for 3 days, beseeching for my recovery and lasting happiness. Before the Buddha's shrine, he made a vow, to unite with me in marriage, to grow old together hand in hand. Mother told me he was a clever man, building the very steps leading to him with his own hands. He knew I feigned illness to avoid him, and he knew I cherished the dignity I'd once lost. So, with this act, he restored my honor. But I went to see Luo Jinyan. Some things could no longer be delayed. Luo Jinyan has always been deeply grateful to me, showing utmost humility whenever we meet. Yet she was meant to be the Liang family's legitimate daughter, destined for a life of silk robes and fine food, not to drift through the streets, forced to worry about survival. I took her hand and looked at the crescent-shaped birthmark on her arm. She climbed into the carriage with me. When we stopped outside the Liang residence, we saw Lady Liang emerge from the house. Her carriage was magnificent, surrounded by a crowd of servants. What I was about to say would completely alter her life. "Do you know where this is?" She looked at me puzzled, smiling softly. The Liang family is such a prosperous and distinguished clan, enduring for generations without decline. I've heard of their ancestors holding 7 marquis titles. But someone as lowly as me would never dare to approach such a place. "This is your home." She chuckled lightly, thinking I was joking. "That elegantly dressed lady you saw earlier is the matriarch of the Liang family, your birth mother. The crescent-shaped birthmark on your arm is proof. The current legitimate heir, Liang Zhiyan, occupies the position meant for you. You were switched at birth. You can verify all this with your present mother." She froze in place, needing time to process such news. I escorted her back to the alley. When she stepped out of the carriage, she seemed dazed, lingering outside the house for a long while without entering. Her mind was sharp, yet the closer she got to the truth, the more timid she became. After I returned to the mansion, the Liang family sent over many more gifts. I ordered the maids to record them all and store them in the warehouse, all to be returned in due time. After descending from Xiangshan Temple, he placed a talisman of safety into my hands, saying he had personally sought it out. He knew full well I'd merely made an excuse, yet he didn't expose me. Instead, he used this as an opportunity to play the role of the reformed rogue. Mother, aware of my distaste for him, began arranging meetings with other suitors. Today it was the young general, tomorrow the son of the Minister of Works. Small banquets at home followed one after another, creating quite a bustle. Mother said the Fu family was also a distinguished lineage, no less prestigious than the Liang family. The fuss had produced multiple imperial tutors and chancellors, a noble house whose disciples spanned the land. Their daughters needn't endure his humiliation. Yet at the Lady of Changyuan's flower-viewing banquet, he sidestepped the crowd, cornered me against a wall, gripped my shoulders, and threatened, "Fu Qining, haven't I done enough? I've even trampled my pride to offer you a way out, yet you insist on maintaining your haughty stance. What more do you want from me?" Watching his uncharacteristic loss of composure, I realized his self-control now was less than a tenth of what it had been in my previous life. After only a few days of this charade, he couldn't keep up the act anymore. I broke free from his grip, flinging his hand away, and replied slowly, "You gave me an out, but does that mean I have to take it? When I broke off our engagement and brought Lingyi back, weren't you ready to die? Didn't you give me that money just to make me feel a little sorry for you? Now that I've come back, don't push your game of playing hard to get too far. To me, a reformed rogue holds no value." I slowed my speech, letting each word fall deliberately. His gaze faltered, his raised hand froze in midair. He couldn't fathom why my devotion to him had vanished overnight. After a long silence, he maintained his stance and delivered a threat. Few families dare defy the Liang clan. His unspoken meaning was clear to me. As long as he refused to relent, other families wouldn't risk offending the Liangs to ally with the fuss. He intended to wear me down. Families that had previously shown interest in a Fu alliance gradually distanced themselves. I knew he was the one orchestrating it behind the scenes. His desire to salvage this marriage stemmed solely from the immense advantage it offered him. The combined influence of the Liang and Fu families would propel him to the pinnacle of power, making him the most powerful man in the court. To that end, he stooped to groveling and humbling himself to beg my return. Yet when I coldly refused, he resorted to threats, quite his style. Just as he gloated over the Liang family's influence, the third prince petitioned for an imperial match, publicly requesting my hand before the throne. His Majesty immediately granted the marriage between me and the third prince. I received the imperial decree with utter calm. A royal match cannot be refused, nor did I ever intend to. But mother led me indoors and spoke at length. True affection is rare among imperial spouses. Your path ahead will be arduous. What could be more treacherous than my past life? Gripping mother's hand, I replied slowly, Mother, I seek no true affection. Human hearts shift like sand, true affection vanishes like smoke. What use would his love be to me? The destinies of all under heaven have always been manipulated by the highest power. In this life, since I must strive, I shall fight for the highest seat of power. With the wedding date set, I had never laid eyes on the third prince before. Even in my past life, he remained stationed at the frontier, unseen. On our wedding night, he lifted my veil and met my gaze. A smile played at his lips, yet his eyes were appraising. An innate, commanding presence radiated from him as he spoke plainly of his reasons for marrying me. Because of my family background. The Fu clan's disciples spread far and wide, wielding considerable influence among the literati of the realm and commanding great popular support. He made no secret of his ambition either. He declared that husband and wife were one, and his sights were set on the throne. He solemnly promised that when he ascended to high office, he would grant me supreme honor and make me the empress, setting an example for the realm. I smiled faintly and handed him the cup of wedding wine. Your Highness will surely achieve your wishes. My maternal family and I will spare no effort to smooth your path forward. These words felt eerily familiar. In my past life, when Zhiyan needed my family's support, he too had spoken softly, making empty promises. But empty promises were easy to make. He could do it, so could I. Helping others seize power in my past life had been exhausting. How much more satisfying would it be to have others seize power for me? In this life, who would use whom remained to be seen. During my 3-day post-wedding visit to my maternal home, the third prince personally accompanied me back. He spared no effort in showing me the respect and dignity I deserved. My mother asked privately, How does the third prince treat you? I only replied, We treat each other with polite formality. On the return journey, he mentioned foreign tribes were troubling the border and His Majesty might order him to lead troops to suppress them. I stopped him. He couldn't go on this mission. He didn't understand why I insisted on stopping him, thinking I was just being unreasonable. If your Highness insists on going, then when the day comes for us to fight, the Fu family will stand by and watch. He seemed annoyed, but after weighing the consequences, he returned home and feigned illness. Ultimately, His Majesty dispatched General Huiqing. Everyone assumed it was merely a barbarian uprising requiring minor suppression. Yet no one anticipated General Huiqing would perish there. The barbarians practiced poisonous arts, spreading strange, incurable diseases. When the news reached the capital, the third prince broke out in a cold sweat in his residence. He pulled me into his arms, sighing repeatedly that I was his lucky star. With me by his side, he would surely turn misfortune into fortune and find blessings in adversity. From that day onward, he grew ever more trusting and reliant upon me. Lingyi returned to seek out Zhiyan, hoping to clear up the misunderstanding. Yet Zhiyan had witnessed Lingyi weeping on the shoulder of that wealthy young master, and his heart seemed to have grown cold. This time, without waiting for his parents to intervene, he personally ordered Lingyi to be driven away. When I encountered the two again, it was amidst a scene of them pulling and tugging at each other in the tavern. Lingyi clutched his sleeve, pleading desperately for him to hear her explanation. Only impatience flickered across his face. Yet the scenes flashing through my mind were all of his deep devotion to her in a past life. The contrast made his current coldness seem almost laughable. Finally, Lingyi blurted out the shocking words, I'm carrying your child. 3 months along. Calculating the timing, he had indeed still been in Lan City then. When he saw me, a flicker of embarrassment crossed Zhiyan's eyes. He ordered his men to pull Lingyi away. I couldn't be bothered to watch their entanglement any longer. Just as I turned to leave, he lowered his voice and said, "Seeing us come to mutual loathing must bring you satisfaction, I suppose." I raised an eyebrow slightly and replied, "Indeed. Those who betray trust and abandon loyalty will face retribution. That is naturally satisfying. You." My words left him speechless, seething with anger yet unable to argue his case. Zhiyan brought Zhao Lingyi into the mansion. This time, he did not insist on granting her the status of principal wife. If she were merely a concubine, the Liang family might have chosen to turn a blind eye. At the matriarch's birthday banquet, a woman appeared bearing a token of recognition. Accompanied by her foster mother, she declared herself the Liang family's legitimate child, swapped maliciously at birth, and demanded a blood recognition test. The eldest madam of the Liang family paled, her gaze darting nervously. The matriarch had harbored resentment toward her for years, and the private discord between mother-in-law and daughter-in-law had now erupted into scandal at such a crucial occasion as a birthday banquet, utterly discrediting her. The second wife of the Liang household, relishing the spectacle, poured fuel on the fire. She insisted that the legitimate bloodline determined family inheritance and that no confusion of lineage could be tolerated. The matter must be thoroughly investigated. Zhiyan bore an uncanny resemblance to Magistrate Liang. From the moment everyone clearly saw her features, whispers erupted. Even Magistrate Liang himself began to waver. The third prince and I remained seated as guests, sipping tea without getting involved. We excused ourselves at the appropriate moment. As we were about to mount the carriage, the third prince remarked with amused sarcasm, "Cheating truly is destined for nobility. Had the marriage to the Liang family been consummated, you'd be the one in this predicament now." Yet that Zhiyan took a fancy to a wandering physician, how perfectly suited they seem. The third prince was clearly in high spirits. Overnight, the news spread throughout the capital. The matriarch of the Liang family personally admitted that years ago, to secure a male heir, she had swapped her biological daughter with the son of a commoner. Thus, the true heiress was cast into the world, enduring a life of hardship, while the impostor basked in wealth and privilege for half a lifetime. The matriarch of the Liang family was sent to an ancient temple to live out her days as a nun, shorn of her hair, in quiet penance. She was forbidden from ever returning. Divorcing a wife from a prominent family was exceedingly difficult, given the intricate web of familial ties. This was the most dignified outcome she could hope for. Zhiyan was also expelled from the Liang household. The elderly matriarch and the family head of the Liang clan had initially felt reluctant to do so, but his position within the family had become too awkward. He bore the title of legitimate heir, a position others could not tolerate. On the day he stepped through the Liang family gates, Zhiyan was welcomed back into the household, restored to her rightful place. A life out of place, now returned to its proper position. In her previous life, Zhiyan never knew her true origins until her death, nor did she understand why she had been targeted for murder. His Majesty was advancing in years, and the ambitions of the third prince were gradually coming to light. He treated me ever more kindly. When I gazed at my reflection, he stood behind me, took the comb from my hand, and personally brushed my long hair. Now that His Majesty intends to designate an heir, I hope my father-in-law can lend me his support in court. With those words spoken, I understood his meaning. Your Highness need not worry. Your wish shall be granted in due time. With my assurance, he was overjoyed. Over the years, he had gained some prestige in the military, but among the civil officials, his reputation was poor. To ascend to the position of crown prince, he must first win over the civil ministers. He received the answer he desired. His current demeanor mirrored that of Zhiyan when he sought smooth advancement in his career. Having seen it all before, I knew exactly what he desired and what words he longed to hear. Soon, the political winds shifted abruptly within the court, with all factions rallying to nominate the third prince as crown prince. Even those who had once looked down on him now praised his distinguished military achievements and noble character. With His Majesty's eldest son having died young and his second son consumed by revelry, the third prince emerged as the most suitable choice. With this collective support, the third prince ascended to the position of crown prince. On the day of his investiture, I stood beside him, dressed in splendid court attire. He took my hand, smiling with hidden meaning. The road ahead is perilous. You must walk it with me. Meeting his gaze, I smiled softly. Of course. That day, I entered the Eastern Palace with him. Everyone said I was blessed. The Crown Prince cherished me deeply now, and when they recalled Zhiyan's broken promise and reneging on our betrothal, they dismissed it as mere laughter. Soon, I became pregnant. The Crown Prince was overjoyed. He said he hoped I would bear him a son. If this child were a boy, he would be the current emperor's eldest grandson, holding a special place in his heart. I smiled and replied, "That depends on whether heaven grants it." Yet he hurried away, heading to Zhiyan temple to pray for blessings, to beseech the heavens to ensure this child would be male. He went about his business, but what I truly desired was a daughter. A daughter who would inherit everything from me. That was the legacy I longed to see. If I bore the emperor's eldest grandson, it would certainly solidify his position as heir. I understood the unease deep within his heart. After all, the current emperor favored his youngest son, cherishing the ninth prince above all others. In my previous life, it was this ninth prince who ascended the throne. Before his death, His Majesty entrusted the young prince to Liang, Zhiyan and other ministers, commanding them to assist him wholeheartedly. Yet the third prince never even lived to become crown prince. He perished in that foreign rebellion. But I want a daughter. The daughter they scorn is the treasure of my heart. I heard that after Liang Zhiyan was cast out of the Liang family, he lived a life of hardship and ruin. Life was harsh, and constant quarrels between the two led to him accidentally pushing Zhao Lingyi. She lost the child. Heartbroken and disillusioned, she vanished without a trace. From that day onward, their fate held no connection to mine. Life and death, fortune and misfortune, poverty and wealth, all were their own destiny. My sights were set upon the highest pinnacle. Ever since I became pregnant, some have advised me to select more beauties for the crown prince. I once mentioned this to him, but he flatly refused. He said, "You endure hardship in your pregnancy. As your husband, I cannot share your burden, so I should spend more time with you. There is no need to choose more beauties, I have no need for their service." His words deeply moved the palace maids around me. Regardless of royal custom, even in ordinary wealthy households, a pregnant mistress would typically have concubines prepared. His declaration made him seem like a rare gem of a husband in this world. Holding such a high position, yet so considerate of his wife. The maids cast envious glances his way, immediately showering him with flattery about his good fortune. My gaze sharpened slightly as I looked at the crown prince thoughtfully, then smiled softly. "Indeed, to have met such a virtuous man as your highness is truly my blessing." Such words pleased him greatly, and he continued to play the role of the considerate husband before everyone. The noble ladies of the capital still whispered among themselves, saying that marrying a man like the crown prince would make one's life worthwhile. Hearing these words, I merely shook my head and smiled. To believe in the affection of royalty would be the height of foolishness. Thus, when I stumbled upon him meeting secretly with Zhiyan during the mid-autumn banquet, not a ripple stirred in my heart. Hidden behind the rockery, I watched with detached calm as he embraced Zhiyan, their voices low and intimate. His voice was soft and soothing as he spoke to her. "Our great cause is not yet complete. I still need to rely on her and her family. The better I treat her, the more wholeheartedly her family will support me. When the time comes, I will give you a proper status, so you can stand by my side openly and honorably." Zhiyan nestled against his chest, her voice trembling slightly. "But what if the crown princess refuses?" The crown prince's tone turned icy. "Then she will have no choice in the matter." I watched the entire spectacle unfold. Only after the two of them had departed did I slowly emerge from behind the rockery. When the birds are gone, the bough is put away, so it has always been since ancient times. Only who would be the bird and who the bough remained to be seen. The crown prince always carried himself with excessive arrogance. Upon returning to the Eastern Palace, I found him frantically searching for me. That look of concern, utterly flawless. I raised an eyebrow slightly. "Your Highness, where did this lotus fragrance cling to you? It seems like the scent of a woman's powder." A flicker of panic crossed his brow before he swiftly concealed it. "I must have picked it up earlier when passing the lotus garden in the imperial flower garden." I smiled, choosing not to press further. After 9 months of pregnancy, the time of delivery arrived. He paced restlessly outside the room, muttering, "Heaven grant it be a boy." Yet the pain sharpened my awareness, making me remember every word he spoke with crystal clarity. In the end, a daughter was born, just as I had wished. But the disappointment etched across his face was too palpable. He gave her only a brief embrace before hastily handing her to the wet nurse. He told me to rest well, promising to visit later. The maid beside me seemed to notice his attitude too, her lips twitching as if she wanted to speak but held back. The old wet nurses gossiped privately, saying, "Daughters are worthless, they'll never be as precious as sons. When a secondary consort arrives and gives birth to a son first, she'll rise in status through her child. The crown princess might just find herself in tears then." I happened to witness this and ordered 20 lashes for each of them. Watching their anguished cries, I remarked indifferently, "My daughter will be of immeasurable worth." From that day on, no one in the Eastern Palace dared speak of it again. The old emperor fell gravely ill, and with the crown prince overseeing the realm, the burden upon his shoulders grew heavier. Those with ulterior motives sought to stir up trouble during this time. On New Year's Eve, the old emperor did not appear. All the festive celebrations were presided over by the crown prince. He was consumed by countless trivial matters, returning each time utterly exhausted. Yet at such a moment, I felt it was even more crucial to remind him. "Your Highness, your brothers are stirring. Why not set a trap and catch them like turtles in a jar?" As my words fell, he seemed to snap awake. The court was currently in a tumultuous season, yet many of these troubles were deliberately stirred up by his brothers. Their aim was to overwhelm him with exhausting responsibilities, leaving him too exhausted to respond, while they would seize the chaos to rise up. 10 days later, the palace urgently summoned the imperial physicians, who kept vigil at His Majesty's bedside through the night. This undoubtedly signaled to the outside world the emperor was failing. The Eastern Palace, too, was filled with many pawns. Once indulged, they now served their purpose. The more intelligence they relayed to their masters, the greater their value. That night, the fifth prince rebelled, leading troops to storm the imperial city. He breached the gates and advanced like a whirlwind. Yet the moment he entered the palace lanes, the city's 4 gates slammed shut. Countless imperial guards lined the walls, unleashing a hail of arrows, "No mercy, kill all who resist." The crown prince took my hand, saying nothing, yet I saw the turmoil in his eyes. His gaze held ambition and delight, the satisfaction of vanquishing rivals and nearing his grand ambition. His position as heir apparent was now secure. The other princes were too young and inexperienced to challenge him. He had played the dutiful son to perfection before His Majesty. The moment His Majesty heard of the fifth prince's rebellion, he coughed up blood and collapsed unconscious. The crown prince remained at His Majesty's bedside, personally administering medicine until the emperor drew his last breath. He ascended the throne in accordance with the imperial will. I too entered the inner palace, becoming empress, while my daughter was granted the title of Princess Minghua. He declared he would heed his minister's counsel and hold a grand selection to take new consorts. I felt no jealousy, instead responding magnanimously, "His Majesty does indeed require attendance. Expanding the harem and fostering descendants is only proper." Finding no fault in my words, he seemed somewhat surprised. He selected beauties, appointing 4 consorts, and above them, 1 noble consort. That noble consort was none other than an old acquaintance. The very woman I had glimpsed behind the rockery that day. Yu Han, daughter of a censor, possessed a background unworthy of the imperial consort title. Yet the emperor favored her, and thus her elevation followed his will. After receiving her title, she came to pay her respects, appearing as delicate as a willow swaying in the breeze. But when alone, her words cut like a dagger. "For years, the world has spoken of the deep affection between your Majesty and the Empress. Yet, on that day, when speaking of the closest yet most distant of spouses, your Majesty remarked that the Empress's scheming and cunning surpass even men. On this path to sovereignty, she has personally stained her hands with bloodshed. With a heart so hardened, such a consort at his side makes even him tremble with dread." Her eyes flashed with provocation. Most women would be hurt to hear such words from the husband they'd personally elevated. But not me. His words couldn't hurt me in the slightest. If he knew my true intentions, he'd feel far more than just dread. Yu Han spoke thus, part provocation, part sowing discord. Yet I finished my tea without flinching. Her disappointment froze the smile on her face. After she left, I made no effort to confront the emperor. It was as if I had never heard those words. Now that the empire was secured, the emperor had no more reservations. After that, he spent entire nights lingering in the consort's palace, whispering sweet nothings in her ear. He even exempted her from the daily audience, publicly humiliating me. He undertook grand construction projects for her, building the star-gathering tower, drinking and reveling with her. The world assumed I, the neglected first wife, must surely harbor resentment. But how could I resent him? I secretly wished he would go even further. The more outrageous and tyrannical he became, the more that supreme power would gradually shift into my hands. He wallowed in the embrace of beauties, indulging in daily caresses, and thus grew lax in state affairs. All memorials he disdained to handle were sent to the Phoenix Grace Palace. At first, he merely intended to test me. Yet those memorials processed through my hands not only contained not a single error but were praised by the ministers, extolling his wisdom. Born into a distinguished family, I once helped Liang Zhiyan ascend to the position of prime minister and later aided the third prince in seizing the throne. The art of imperial governance is no stranger to me. If given this position, I would govern far better than he. The harem grew ever more crowded with beauties. The soft embrace of the harem most easily erodes the spirit of a hero. He always seemed weary and listless, increasingly unwilling to handle affairs. Consort Yu is with child. Her constitution has always been frail. Conceiving this child was no easy feat. He cherishes this offspring deeply and has made her a solemn promise. Consort Yu once boasted to me, repeating his exact words, "The empress has only one daughter. Should the consort bear a son, he shall be named crown prince." This was the emperor's private promise to her. She desperately wanted to see panic in my eyes, but I merely smiled and congratulated her. The empress may appear calm now, but I suspect she harbors deep hatred for me. By this point, I needn't hide it from you, the emperor and I shared mutual affection years ago. He married you only for the sake of the throne. Her hand rested on her belly, her face still smiling. If you could take my place now, would you need to waste your breath on all this nonsense? My eyes narrowed slightly, catching her momentary loss of composure. This remark had struck her deepest wound. A mere clown. Nothing more. After that, she rarely visited Fini Palace. She finally understood that sparring with me was futile. Each time she provoked or taunted me, she received only my indifference. Yu Hanyan did indeed bear the imperial prince, the emperor's first son. Yet her years of frail health led to life-threatening hemorrhaging during childbirth. The imperial physicians fought desperately to save her, but her body was too depleted. She did not survive the month. The emperor was overcome with grief, suspending court for many days. He sat motionless daily in her chambers, clutching her old garments, the palace doors tightly shut, refusing to see anyone. Even ministers with urgent state affairs could only come to me for guidance. He issued an edict naming her infant son as crown prince, a mere babe in swaddling clothes, hastily elevated to the position. Yet the imperial physicians warned that Yu Hanyan's difficult labor had left the crown prince frail from birth. They feared he might not survive past 10 years. These words, they dared not utter to His Majesty. Since the physicians held their tongues, His Majesty need not know. Let him believe his crown prince is a child of robust health. He would not listen to his minister's counsel. He insisted on posthumously honoring her as empress. What he couldn't give her in life, he now insisted on bestowing posthumously. The harem buzzed with whispers, yet I did not oppose him. Instead, I helped quell the rumors. Recognizing my discretion, he entrusted me with increasingly important matters. He remained utterly consumed by grief over the imperial consort's passing, drinking incessantly without restraint until he was regularly dead drunk. With many duties and little sustenance, his appetite dwindled significantly. Before long, he developed a headache. At first, it was a mild ache, but it soon became excruciating. The imperial physician examined him and merely stated it was wind cold entering his body, requiring careful recuperation. I noticed the physician's hesitant expression, but I did not press him. Instead, I summoned him privately. Physician Hu, His Majesty dislikes discussing his ailments. If you face any difficulties, you may confide in me privately. Do not provoke His Majesty's irritation or anger. Physician who visibly relaxed upon hearing this. He explained the condition could be minor or serious. With careful recuperation, it might remain a minor ailment. Yet if he continued his reckless ways, neglecting his health, it could develop into a severe headache. Wind-related ailments were stubborn and incurable. The ancient divine physicians had mentioned trepanation, but no one dared attempt it. His Majesty detested being constrained. How could he possibly rest properly? As the considerate and virtuous consort in his eyes, I naturally had to comply with his wishes. Whether he indulged in nightly revelry or reminisced over mementos, I would never go against his will. When the imperial physician prescribed the life-sustaining wind-dispelling decoction, he refused to drink it, and I let him be. He became obsessed with the alchemy of golden elixirs, seeking out mystics everywhere. They claimed consuming the golden elixir would allow him to see the Empress Consort's image and voice again in his dreams, and I never stopped him. In just a short year, his symptoms worsened, manifesting as numbness and weakness in his limbs, and blurred vision. He gradually lost the strength to attend to court affairs. Even slightly longer periods reviewing memorials caused dizziness, blurred vision, and paralysis in his right hand, rendering him unable to hold a brush. Only when he lifted his teacup and found his hand trembling uncontrollably did he grasp the gravity of his condition. But by then, it was too late. The herbal remedies prescribed by the imperial physicians held little effect on him. He could barely manage to attend court each day, and after the court session, he had no energy left to handle state affairs. All of this, he could only entrust to me. Besides me, he had no one he could trust. His brothers were the ones he distrusted most. His children were still too young. I, however, was his wife of many years. I had stood by him through the bloody storms of power struggles, weathered open hostility and hidden plots together, and shared sleepless nights worrying about the future. He could only trust me. He feared the imperial authority slipping from his grasp, and he feared powerful ministers rising above the emperor's power. Now, I alone can stabilize the court and intimidate the aristocratic clans for him. During his convalescence, all matters great and small in the court were decided by me. Power is my true goal, the very reason I married him. He believes himself the victor, having used me and the Fu family to ascend the throne. Little does he know he is merely a stepping stone on my path to imperial power. Rather than prop up his lofty ambitions, I would replace him. In the depths of winter, snow swirled outside. His body was most vulnerable to the cold, yet I ordered servants to quietly open the windows in the dead of night. It finally broke him. As he lay dying on his sickbed, his last breaths called out for Han Yen. In a final moment of lucidity, he commanded that the throne be passed to the crown prince. The young emperor ascended the throne, and I became Empress Dowager, ruling from behind the curtain. After years of striving, I had finally reached this position. Yet, it was not enough. The new emperor was still a child, frail and weak. Seated in the court, he dared not speak. Whenever ministers presented petitions, his gaze would turn to me. He could not handle such occasions. The imperial physicians took his pulse daily, their eyes growing heavier with worry each passing day. Privately, they told me the new emperor might not live beyond 5 years. 5 years, enough time for me to plan. He is my puppet. As long as he remains, my rule is legitimate, and the realm stays stable. I will use these 5 years to grasp the entire dynasty firmly in my hands. Then, even without him, the empire will not fall into chaos. To this end, I promoted scholars from humble backgrounds, selecting talent without prejudice, shattering the entrenched dominance of the aristocratic clans. New and old factions were balanced against each other, while imperial relatives were exiled to remote frontiers. I established the Mirror Bureau to oversee officials, encouraging mutual denunciation. I had prepared everything. My daughter asked me, "Mother, if I were a son, could I have eased your burdens?" The palace maids whisper that father never loved me. When I was born, he prayed for a son. My arrival disappointed him. Because of this, he neglected you, passed the crown prince title and the throne to consort Yu's son, posthumously honored her as empress, and made you a laughingstock throughout the court and the realm. I stroked her cheek and smiled. But I wanted a daughter like Minghua. My daughter will be my lifelong pride. I invited the greatest scholars of our age to teach her learning, asked the grand tutor to instruct her in the ways of a ruler, and personally taught her the art of imperial governance. My expectations for her have always been different from those of others. Her gaze fixed on me with unwavering resolve. Mother, I will do better than any of those men. Your Majesty believes in you. At these words, her face lit up with a radiant smile. When the young emperor passed away, he was only 9 years old. I ascended the throne with an iron fist. My claim was illegitimate and unjustified, so this path required a sea of corpses and rivers of blood to pave the way. Imperial power and conquest have always been thus. I am no saint, and I will not retreat now. In the eyes of the world, I could have adopted an heir from the imperial clan, ruled from behind a curtain, and still held the reins of power as the true ruler. But I refuse. I insist on sitting rightfully upon the throne in the Hall of Supreme Harmony. 100 years hence, when historians meticulously record our era, my name shall stand alongside those of past emperors. I wish posterity to remember me as Empress, not as Crown Prince's consort, Empress, or Empress Dowager. On the day of my ascension, Minghua gazed up at the 12-lobed crown upon my head and murmured softly, "Mother looks truly majestic wearing it. One day, it shall rest upon Minghua's head as well." That day, I longed for a daughter, for her to inherit everything I possessed. The path of an empress was never meant to be a single generation's legacy, and I would never allow it to end with mine. Though heaven and earth may change, and the world turn upside down, I would still meet my old friend again. Everyone said Zhiyan had gone mad. In ragged clothes, he climbed the city wall and stood there, shouting. I held the office of chancellor, wielding power that dominated the realm. The late emperor entrusted me with his young heir, bestowing upon me a weighty responsibility. I supported the infant emperor, my achievements overshadowing the world, my fame to endure for all time. His voice was cold, stern, and resolute, echoing atop the city wall. Below, crowds gathered, pointing and whispering. He saw me, then gave a sorrowful smile and spoke one sentence. He said, "I remember now." He recalled everything from his past life. Then, from the very top of the city wall, he leaped. As he fell, his face bore a look of release, as if he had truly found liberation. The people below watched his body fall. Those who knew him sighed, murmuring, a prodigy in his prime, reduced to living on the streets in his twilight years. The crushing disparity and blow must have driven him mad. But his memories held far more than that. His former life of power and prestige now seemed like a fleeting dream. The more one possessed in dreams, the more despairing reality became. In the past life, he was the one wielding power over the realm, supporting the young emperor. In this life, I am the one reigning supreme, holding absolute authority. The year Minghua came of age, she entered the Eastern Palace. Already possessing the dignified bearing of a crown prince, she declared with unwavering resolve, "I will help Mother safeguard this legacy, ensuring its prosperity for generations to come." The story concludes. Thank you all for your companionship. See you in the next chapter.